Hey, this is Attorney Walter Hnot, the most viewed and subscribed to Disability Attorney in America. Remember to like and subscribe. Become a member if you like. Now, with that said, we're going to be going to something that is a spicy topic for you. It's a spicy topic for politicians. They are afraid to talk about it. You might be too, but I'm not. Here's the bottom line. Should we essentially privatize Social Security benefits? Everybody normally says no. But with the government having failed economically to produce a dollar that is able to retain its value, I don't know. We're starting to get to that territory where we know we can't trust the government with Social Security benefits because of what they've done, how the trust funds are going to run out, how they take the money and reinvest it into their own things that they want to spend money on. Remember, they have Social Security bonds. They take that money, they spend that money, and then they pay you back, usually 15 years down the line, but then they got to borrow to do it. So I guess what my question here is, what is it likely that you would get if, and I'm just going to do one number with this, if you were to go ahead and have privatized Social Security benefits? So instead of going through like a lot of stuff and then telling you, I'm just going to tell you up front. I want you to know up front. So if you're wondering what it would likely be, if they had an artificial intelligence do the calculations for essentially how much you would get if you had privatized Social Security benefits, I'm just going to tell you the number right up front because some of you guys want to know the information, boom, right in the beginning, and then we'll go through the details as to what's good, what's bad. Assuming it operating in a way that is like right now for the government to do it, assuming basic returns from the private side, no magic. We're not talking Pelosi level magic here. We're not talking like, basically criminal politician magic when it comes to investing, because they know how to move the stocks based off the legislation that's going to pass. What we're looking at, just so that you kind of understand here, is that there are different levels of what you potentially would, should, could get. Ultimately, I asked an artificial intelligence system to calculate out for me what it would come out to. And I want to give those to you right now. Okay. So here's kind of the bottom line. If, for example, you had a traditional SSA amount of benefits, guaranteed through this, United States. Actually, no, it's not technically guaranteed. They use that argument that it is guaranteed. Technically, in 8 years, it won't be guaranteed. So technically, I guess it's not guaranteed. They can't pay it to you in 8 years. They run out of money. So it's not guaranteed. Sorry, it's not. The United States government just had its rating reduced by Moody's. It's not guaranteed. So the main argument you would use to say keep Social Security in the government no longer works. That's actually a really sad point of this. So yeah, no, the Social Security Administration is not guaranteed. It's just not. Inflation adjusted, cost of living adjustment. The math is shit. You get screwed every year. It is what it is. Okay. But we've been using it. We're used to it. The SSA has the money. We're kind of okay with it. It is what it is. We don't get as much as we should. Let's say you get $2,000. $2,000 per month under the traditional Social Security Administration model. Cool. If we kept a basic standardized model and an artificial intelligence program calculated what you would traditionally get under that new investment in privatized dollars, you would, instead of getting $2,000, right? Remember, this is market dependent. It's more volatile. Could go up, could go down. Realistically, instead of essentially around $24,000 a month, $24,000 a year at $2,000 per month, you would, on a privatized, investors that are good at investing, work on investing your money, ironically, in America and things that make America really wonderful. They would invest it into all kinds of stuff, blue chip stocks, bonds, basically new companies, new this, new that. That makes sense. The money would go towards rebuilding America by investing in America to get returns from companies that succeed in America. You would get per month $3,450. So instead of $2,000, you get $3,450. Instead of $24,000 a year, you would get $41,403. Can somebody survive on a yearly basis off of $24,000? It's rough. It is rough. It is not good. If you own your own home, maybe it can be okay, but otherwise it's rough. Like if you went with that BS logic where you were like, I don't want to own a home. That's a terrible idea. I just want to rent and not have to worry about what's going on. I don't have to fix anything. If you were one of those where like your brain was not thinking when you made that crucial choice in your life, then unfortunately you are now suffering unbelievably, because rent in many situations is not $2,000 a month. A lot of people are now having to pay that or even more, unless you're in like a one bedroom trailer in a trailer park. Okay. Or you're like one of the bedrooms in a house in a state that's not doing so good. You know what I mean? Like, and let me tell you this, like some states, they're just not livable. Like you can't live cheaply in New York. You can't live cheaply in California. New Jersey's the worst. New Jersey's the worst. You can't live cheap here. The politics have destroyed the economy. The politics have destroyed the dollar's worth in New Jersey. In fact, it's so bad in New Jersey that they have state supplements to pay people on top of their SSI benefits to continue to survive in the state because it's that expensive. It's that bad. Let me just say this. I love New Jersey. I grew up in New Jersey, but I grew up in the farm area of New Jersey. Farm area of New Jersey is a spot, okay? New Jersey is one of those weird places where a lot of people have a lot of ego and they have a lot of expectations, and they're constantly being upset because things aren't turning out well. Why is that happening? It's because they're voting in politicians who don't understand basic economics. And what you get from people, like when I try to buy something from Facebook Marketplace or eBay from somebody that's in New Jersey, New York, like the tri-state area, kind of that area, New Jersey is one of the few unique places where when something doesn't sell, they raise the price of it. Now, I know what you're thinking. That is the worst thing you could do. It is literally the opposite of the way economics works. That would be correct. And that's New Jersey. New Jersey, something doesn't sell that you want to sell, they raise the price. It's been sitting in your backyard for 10 years rusting. They put it at almost what the new cost would be of a new one. They don't understand. They don't understand. Florida, total opposite. Florida, people are moving in, moving out. People are, I'm getting rid of it. I don't want to pay storage for it. It works properly. Economics, it works properly there. New Jersey, well, that's been sitting there for 10 years. And it could sit there another 10 years. They just don't get it. They don't understand how the economic policies of buy and sell actually work. They get a lot of politicians, which are great at doing that too. So the bottom line is, in some of these states, you couldn't afford. You can't literally, in some of these states, stay on traditional Social Security administered benefits. You can't. You can't afford it. So that is why we're starting to see a popularity increase in essentially the privatized Social Security benefits. Now, the great argument against it, which I agree with, is that at the end of the day, you are reliant on your investments being good. And after 2008, after 2000, after 2021, that's scary. That's a scary place. It's a very scary place. But at the same time, if we're honest with each other, most Americans do not have a master's in business or accounting or numbers. Anything numbers. Any 1 through 100. Anything numbers, they don't have a master's in it. A lot of them don't have a college degree that is specific to numbers. And as a result, their ability to invest is shit. Total shit. And that's okay. You cannot put the average American in control of the investments that they want to make with their money, because they're going to get it wrong. I mean, honestly, should we put Pelosi in? Look, if we had privatized Social Security Administration benefits where we took it away from the SSA and we put Pelosi in charge of investing, and her only true goal was that she had to make money, we wouldn't be looking at $3,450 per month instead of $2,000. We would be at $10,000 a month, $15,000 a month. If we had Pelosi power, if we had the ability to invest at that level, oh, you would be asking me, why haven't we done this decades ago? And I'd have to honestly agree. If we look at some of the best politicians for doing stuff, right? If we look at, Clinton, when it comes to the beautiful wife, right? And we wanted to look at, black ops that basically were done in the middle of the night related to people that were not in line with the agenda, I would say Hillary's the best. I'd say she's the best at that. If we were looking at financial truth and gains as a result of manipulating stocks due to, what the legislature's about to come out with, Pelosi's up there. There's other Republicans too. Republicans do it just the same. Don't think that they're not, there's no angels there too, all right? So my point is, if we had traditional SSA, $2,000, annual benefit $24,000, privatized $3,450, $41,403 for the annual, Pelosiized probably $10,000 a month. Probably $10,000 a month. Okay, we're talking about $120,000 actual money per year when you retire. That's just the reality. And did you ever stop and think? I mean, now we have AI programs that follow essentially the investments of the best investors, and you just put your stuff into what they do, the way they do it. Did you ever think, for one moment, if we have these mega successful investors, how in the F did we end up with traditional SSA investments, with trust, with Social Security bonds, special interest bonds being the thing, where they gotta, just to pay us back, they gotta borrow money? Let's go over to here. The Motley Fool came out with an article. I think it's pretty good because it kind of shows some light on stuff. How Social Security privatization could impact you, by Dana George. Although the idea is not new, there appears to be renewed enthusiasm surrounding Social Security privatization. Privatization refers to shifting from a government-managed Social Security system to a private investment model in which individuals would manage their own retirement funds rather than count on Social Security benefits in retirement. I don't think the average Americans should be actually investing it, in charge of when you sell, when you buy, because they just don't know how to do it. More now than ever do because of YouTube. You got tons of YouTubers out there explaining to you how money works, how the graphs work, what happens now, what happens, all that stuff. But to be clear, they're not where they need to be to actually understand how to make money with investments. Some of them get lucky. Some of them Bitcoin their way into a rainbow. But most of them should not be allowed to do that because they'll screw it up. They'll lose it. They'll lose it all. They'll lose it all. And it'll be a situation where it's just they'll have nothing for retirement or disability. Realistically, given the number of issues that would need to be overcome, the odds of privatizing Social Security aren't great. For example, what would happen to those Americans who enter their retirement years with little to no money because their investment went belly up or they failed to invest at all? Well, they'd go on SSI benefits. Quick and easy answer. They'd go on to supplemental security income benefits. It's paid by general taxes, which are heavily paid for by the middle class. If they lost it all and they invested it and they lost it all, they would go on SSI benefits. Just like the people who never worked or didn't work that much or worked under the table, they would go on SSI benefits. Currently, 6.2% of your salary goes towards Social Security taxes. For a moment, let's imagine that only a portion of the 6.2% is forwarded to Social Security and the rest is deposited into an individual retirement account that you control. That's really unfair. Here's the thing. It's not just 6.2%. It more likely comes out to 15, 16, 17% when you add the Medicare and all that jazz. But the point is, if you're an employee, you pay 6.2%. And then when your employer pays for the money that you make, they pay an additional 6.2%. So it's 12.4% just for the retirement disability, and then even more on top for the Medicare. So just to be clear about this, it's not just 6.2%. Okay, that is that is not right. If you're self-employed, you're paying full 12.4. All right, that's what one suggested form of privatization looks like. If such a plan were to replace the current pay-as-you-go Social Security system, here's how you could be impacted. Even if you're contributing to a workplace retirement plan, like a 401k or 403b, it may sometimes feel as though your contributions are being sucked into a black hole and that you have very little control over how they're invested. After all, employer-sponsored retirement plans normally offer a limited menu of investment options. A lot of you know that 401ks are a very bad investment. A lot of you know that IRAs are a very bad investment because at the end of the day, the dollar is not retaining its value for a long enough period. Cool? Cool. All right, proponents of Social Security privatization say putting the money back in your hands gives you the opportunity to invest in a wide range of asset classes, included stocks, bonds, real estate, and alternative investments. With so many investments from which to choose, you may end up diversifying your portfolio more aggressively and earning or losing more throughout the years. Look, hear me out. We get 3 auditing agencies, and they box in Pelosi. And then we put Pelosi back to work on making money. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. She'll be stuck in a box because the accountants will follow her everywhere she goes. She goes to this room, that room, they'll follow her. But just hear me out. If we had some of that Pelosi magic, I think people would be pretty good. Nobody'd be worried about the trust funds running out. Once 6.2% of your wages, taxed on the first $176,100 earned annually, are withdrawn from your paychecks, that money is gone. Although you're aware it goes into a pool that pays Social Security benefits to current retirees, you may not understand exactly how that's accomplished. According to proponents, privatization would put a greater emphasis on understanding how the market works. In addition, you would need to be familiar with various investment vehicles, market trends, how to protect investments against market volatility, and retirement planning strategies, which the average American isn't going to do. They're not. I get called all day long from people who want me to win their disability benefits, and I send them the forms. They fill out half of them and never send them back. And then 2 to 3 years later, they call me and they say, I went through the whole process. I lost. I don't know what happened. Blah, blah, blah. Would you please finally represent me because I forgot to fill out the forms originally? Blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. Oh, my goodness. Oh, how terrible. Blah, 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 blah. A lot of Americans can't even fill out forms. So putting the money directly in their capacity to handle investments, they don't have the knowledge, they don't have the experience, they don't have the ink in the pen to fill out the form to get her done. Their finger is too lazy to point and click. I know you're going to say that's not me. I get it's not you, but some of you know somebody who falls into that category. All right. Data from the Civic Science indicates that 29% of the U.S. adults consider themselves very financially literate. They're not. They're not. They're not. I love them dearly, but they're not. They're not. Meet Kevin. He is, right? He is. Am I financially literate? I mean, I have a business understanding. I've owned a law firm for almost 12 years. We're literally a couple months away from that. Doing the rental home thing, almost finished restoring that. So I'm learning from other YouTubers about how to be smart with money. Although, to be clear, the greatest knowledge and wealth of knowledge that I have about investments and how money works, it comes from my client base because they tell me their stories of what they did and how they did it and what happened. And when you learn all the mistakes that other people made, you very quickly do not repeat them. Because there is an ocean's worth of how they screwed this up, what they would have done better. And I wish we would, honestly, maybe I should start interviewing people so that they can tell you their story. Maybe I should. Since you would be 100% in charge of your retirement investments, you could choose to invest in higher yield assets while these investments carry a higher risk. They also have a potential for greater returns when compared to traditional Social Security benefits. S&P 500. If you invest in that, you could do incredibly well. You can do incredibly well. The bottom line is if you have assets that are bundled and they have the potential for earning more money, and it's lots of different investments all into one particular bundled thing, you can actually go forward and do pretty well as long as you pick the right package. And I'm just trying to think what would be the simplest thing somebody could do. The mutuals, are probably the best. Some packaging there. Although, like, here's the thing. Can I be realistic with you? If you guys had that extra money, you would probably invest a portion of it into starting a business or doing a business or whatever. A chunk of you would do that. That has the most potential financial strength and growth, whatever. But if you didn't want to do that, I could see you falling into the stock game, the Bitcoin game, the bond game, whatever. I could see you, I don't think either that there's... So, okay, here's another thing too. If I said to you guys, name 5 companies that are likely to increase in worth drastically over the next 3 to 5 years, what would you tell me? You'd probably be like Coca-Cola, Disney, SpaghettiOs, something along that line, right? But you'd be wrong. It would be tech companies doing AI stuff, be future space travel companies doing, how do we live there? How do we get ore out of that giant rock that's floating by the US? That's the investment. All right. However, Social Security benefits are guaranteed while market returns are not. That is a lie. That is, I don't know how they let that lie slip through there. I'm Motley Fool. That's disingenuous. That is a lie. I'll read it again. However, Social Security benefits are guaranteed while market returns are not. No, Social Security benefits are not guaranteed. Your trust funds are going to run out and you will not be able to receive your 100% check. You will get a smaller amount, which means they're not guaranteed. Today, you may have a rough idea of when you plan to retire, and that may be due, in part, to how much you expect to receive in Social Security benefits. If you were to take over control of how your Social Security taxes are invested, you could find yourself changing your projected retirement date frequently. Yeah, you'd be retiring a lot sooner, based on how the market is performing at that time. And that is an interesting idea, because if you privatized it, the date at which you'd retire would be a lot sooner. You'd see a lot of people retiring in their 50s, some of them latter 40s. That is not an error. That is a realistic situation with privatized benefits, because some of these people are going to get it right. Some of them are going to get it very right, and some of them are going to get it, very, very right. It's yet to be seen if Social Security privatization will ever get off the ground, because remember, they beat it to death when the last Bush was in, but they didn't really have it figured out back then. And to be fair, there's a lot of problems with it. It could be that a hybrid version is implemented, or that Congress can shore up the current Social Security system enough to continue operating as is. Come on now. Let's just have a little moment. Me and you talking about Social Security. That thing that's like out there. Yeah. Yeah. How are they going to do that? Because remember, the politicians, they spend what they get. And what they get, they spend. You know what I mean? That's how politicians work. You know what I mean? They don't put money away. Where are they going to put it? They'll give it back to the Americans? No. They got to invest it somewhere that has nothing to do with Americans. That's how they do it. That's how they do it right. All right. The important thing is to understand what Social Security privatization would mean to you personally, to determine whether it's in your best interest, and to let your elected representatives know how you feel if privatization is ever seriously considered by lawmakers. I started working on a plan for privatization that was a hybrid allowance. And then I realized that if they actually did this, you would not fix the main problem that you run into. Okay, so here's the main issue. You can take a lot of money and invest it and have the advantage, because the more money you have when you invest, the greater advantage you have to swing a market. Okay? But here's the kicker. When people start investing their Social Security benefits and they're in control of it, and then they see their return is, let's say they're getting $4,000 a month when they hit, let's say, 60, 65, whatever. Okay? When they see that they would have gotten $6,000 a month, but they're taking that $2,000 away and giving it to the poor, those people are on a hybrid allowance with SSI, or, they're getting like, $1,100, $1,200, $1,300 SSDI. The bend points, right? The bend points on the graph, how they suck the money out of the middle class and the rich and give it to the poor, although it's mostly the middle class that unfortunately get effed based on the percentage and ratio of what they earn. I think there would be a problem Because right now, most of you do not know how much of the money you paid in actually goes to the poor. That normally would go to you. You don't know. And because of that, you are not rioting. You are not upset. But if you were in charge of your investments and you saw a large chunk of them going to the impoverished who weren't working, I can almost guarantee you that that would have a very big effect on this program. You think I'm wrong? If you had the opportunity to receive, let's say, $8,000 a month, it's a lot. But they had to take $3,000 of it and give it to the poor. Sounds like regular taxes to me. But let's say that they did that with Ben points. Okay, and that's not a perfect, I'm just giving you numbers right now. You could say they take away $2,000. You could say they take away $1,000. Real quick, you're not going to be okay with this. I guarantee it. Because if you actually knew how much they took from you and gave to people who didn't work, worked only a little bit, or basically, worked under the table mostly, you would be ferocious. You would be so angry, you wouldn't know where to put your hatred. And that's the problem. If you don't know how the investments are being done, you just accept the way it is. But if you were in charge of it, and you saw them take that much money away from you, and that's why I would fail, because nobody would want to fund the impoverished. Nobody would want to fund the poor. Nobody would want to fund people who worked sometimes, right? Even if we made the disability benefit system easier to get onto, right? To capture more people, the moment the middle class learned how much the poor actually get, I guarantee you Social Security benefits, I guarantee you would be privatized within the next couple of years. I guarantee that would happen because the middle class works so hard, they make so little, and a lot of what they pay into FICA taxes gets sucked away. I guarantee it. So that's the problem. If you teach the middle class what's actually going on, they will revolt. If you keep them in the dark, they'll just keep building their credit card debt. That's the kicker. It's sad, it's scary, but that's reality. Attorney Walter Hnot, the most viewed and clicked on and subscribed to Disability Attorney in America. I hope all is well. Please remember to like, subscribe, and also at the end of the day, please remember on Mondays and Thursdays I go live for free to answer questions from the community. You get 5-minute, question and answer, and then we switch to the next person that calls in. Also, if you need a full 1-hour consultation, there's a mini contract below. I will catch you at the next video. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, and we'll go from there. Thank you so much. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.